Every single one. She made them all quit. One by one, they walked out that door, clutching their bags, their pride in tatters, vowing never to return. It was a revolving door of staff at the Ashford mansion, a place so cold and grand it could freeze your very soul. But there was a reason. The reason was her, the billionaire's daughter. A storm in designer clothes, a heart made of ice, who seemed to take a perverse pleasure in breaking the spirit of anyone who dared to serve her. Hi everyone, my name is Neha, and welcome to the channel. The place where stories are not just told, they stay with you and quietly change the way you think. If you love meaningful stories with powerful life lessons, then you are in the right place. Now sit back, relax, and let me tell you a story about a battle of wills that no one saw coming, a story of how an unshakable spirit can bring even the mightiest to their knees. Isabella Ashford was a legend in her own mind. Her father, a titan of industry, was rarely home, and she ruled their sprawling estate with an iron fist. The problem was, she was a perfectionist with a cruel streak. She would find fault in everything. The coffee was never the right temperature. The towels were never folded with the crease sharp enough. The floor, despite being polished to a mirror shine, had a speck of dust. She didn't just fire people, she broke them. She'd critique their posture, their accent, their very existence. The last maid, a nervous young woman, had been reduced. Mr. Sterling, the head butler, who had seen generations of staff come and go, was at his wit's end. The employment agency had sent their last candidate. They were desperate. He knew the woman waiting in the kitchen was their final hope. He sighed, preparing the now familiar speech, the warning he gave every applicant. Here's the situation, he began, his voice weary. The young Miss Ashford is particular. Extremely particular. She expects perfection. She might say things that are hurtful. You must be prepared. The woman who sat across from him was unlike any applicant he had seen. Her name was Elena. She was in her late 40s, a Filipino woman with a strong, sturdy frame and a face etched with the kind of warmth that comes from a life filled with both hardship and love. Her eyes, however, were what caught his attention. They were calm, not the calm of fear or submission, but a deep, unshakable stillness. She listened to his warning, a gentle, knowing smile playing on her lips. "I understand, Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice soft but resonant. "Don't you worry about me. I know exactly what I'm getting into." Mr. Sterling stared at her. He had seen many women walk through that door, confident, nervous, skilled. But this one looked as if she was about to go to a picnic, not a battlefield. The moment arrived. Isabella looked up from her phone, her gaze sweeping over Elena with clinical disdain. "So, you're the new one," she said, her tone condescending. "Let's get this straight. This is not a job. This is a test. And if you fail, you're out. Do you understand?" She walked toward a silver chandelier and pointed a manicured fingernail at a tiny, almost invisible smudge. "I need this cleaned. Now. I want it to shine so brightly I can see my own future in it." It was the classic intimidation tactic, a test of obedience and fear. But Elena didn't flinch. She didn't scramble to get a cloth. Instead, she met Isabella's gaze directly. "You have a beautiful home, ma'am," Elena said, her voice calm and steady. "But such a beautiful house needs a warm heart to make it a home. I can clean your chandelier. That is easy. But I cannot clean a heart that is full of anger. That is a job you must do yourself." Isabella was stunned. For a moment, she was speechless. The words hit her like a physical blow. She had expected tears, stammering, or groveling. What she got was a mirror held up to her own soul. "How dare you?" Isabella shrieked, her carefully curated composure shattering. "Who do you think you are? You are a servant. You are nothing. You are hired to clean, not to analyze me. You can leave. Pack your bags and get out." She expected Elena to retreat, to apologize profusely. But Elena just stood there, radiating a quiet strength that made Isabella's rage seem almost pathetic. "Leave?" Elena asked, tilting her head slightly. "You are firing me before I've even started? That is very inefficient, ma'am. You know who else was inefficient? My late husband, who would spend an hour trying to fix a leaky pipe instead of just calling a plumber. I'm not telling you what to do, ma'am. I'm just telling you what I see." With that, Elena picked up a duster from a nearby cart, walked over to the chandelier and began to polish it, humming a soft, almost cheerful melody. She had ignored a direct order. She had refused to be broken. And she had done it all with the serene defiance of a woman who had faced far greater fears than a rich girl's tantrum. The following weeks were a war of attrition. Isabella escalated her tactics. She would demand impossible things, like having the silverware polished in alphabetical order. She would insult her cooking, her dress, her accent. She would purposely track mud across a freshly cleaned floor. And Elena would simply smile, clean it up, and say something that disarmed Isabella completely. Anger is like a storm, ma'am. It makes a lot of noise, but it passes. It's the calm that remains that builds a life. You cannot break what is already humble, ma'am. I have dug a well by hand in the burning sun. Scrubbing a floor for you is a blessing. Each time, Isabella's fury would boil over, but Elena's calm demeanor held firm. She was a rock in a hurricane, and the hurricane was getting tired. One afternoon, Isabella stumbled over a rug in the hallway, spilling a glass of red wine all over a priceless white carpet. It was an accident, of course, but she had a new maid and the perfect victim for her rage. You, she screamed, pointing at a young, terrified maid. You left this rug here. Look at the mess. You are incompetent. A complete disaster. The young girl burst into tears. Elena entered the hallway. She looked at the crying girl, then at the furious Isabella. She knelt down, gently took the girl's hand, and gave her a comforting smile. She then turned to face Isabella. What are you doing? Isabella snapped. Get out of the way. She needs to be fired. Elena looked at Isabella, and for the first time, there was no gentle smile, but the same calm, unwavering gaze. But this time, it held a glimmer of something else. Pity. Ma'am, Elena said softly, a good leader takes the blame when an accident happens. A poor one, she blames everyone else. You are angry at the wine, not at this girl. But you don't know how to direct your anger, so you throw it at the most vulnerable person in the room. Isabella opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out, because she knew, deep down, it was true. Now, Elena continued, we all make mistakes, ma'am. I spilled a bucket of water on my mama's new floor once, and I thought she would give me a beating. Instead, she handed me a mop. Tita, she said, you made the mess. You clean it. And then, you apologize to the floor for being careless. Elena turned to the young girl. You go have some tea and calm down. Let me handle this. She then took the mop and began cleaning the stain with a gentle, practiced efficiency, leaving a speechless Isabella to stare at her with a look of dawning confusion. That night, Isabella couldn't sleep. The words kept echoing in her head. A poor leader, she blames everyone else. She had always thought of herself as strong, a leader who demanded the best. But now, a woman who she had dismissed as just the help had shown her a truth she had never been brave enough to see. She walked down to the kitchen, the house silent. The only light was coming from the butler's pantry, where Elena was ironing a set of tablecloths, her face serene in the warm glow. She wasn't humming. Isabella stood in the doorway, hesitant. I just wanted to ask you something. Why do you stay? Everyone else runs. Don't you fear me? Elena looked up from the ironing board, and her eyes met Isabella's. The calm was still there, but now it was. Elena set the iron down. Fear you, ma'am? She let out a soft, quiet laugh. Let me tell you about fear. I had a son. He was 5 years old. He was sick. A fever that wouldn't break. I had no money for a doctor, no car to take him to the hospital. I walked for 5 kilometers, carrying him in my arms, under the blazing sun. I was terrified. My heart was pounding. I had never felt such fear in my life. She paused, looking at the hands clasped in front of her. But you know what that fear did? It gave me strength. It gave me the will to put one foot in front of the other. I got him to the doctor, and he is alive and healthy today because I was too afraid to give up. She looked directly into Isabella's eyes. So, you see, ma'am, fear is just a feeling. It can freeze you, or it can fuel you. I have felt true fear. The fear of losing someone I love. And I am no longer afraid of a girl who uses her words as weapons because she has no idea how to use her own strength. She slid the cup of milk across the counter towards Isabella. You, ma'am, are not scary. You are sad. And you don't need to be fired. You need to be loved. The transformation was complete. The mask of the Ice Queen had finally cracked. For the first time in years, maybe in her entire life, Isabella Ashford felt a lump in her throat. A hot, shameful tear escaped and rolled down her cheek. She was frozen, not by rage, but by the sheer, undeniable force of a love she had never known. Elena reached out and gently placed her hand over Isabella's. The strongest people are not those who show no fear, ma'am. The strongest people are those who face it and still choose to be kind. You can be that person. I know it. I see it in you. The mansion was no longer a fortress of fear. It was becoming a home. Isabella began to learn. She learned to cook, badly at first, but with more enthusiasm than she'd ever shown for anything. She learned to laugh at her own mistakes. She learned to say thank you and mean it. The staff, once terrified, now felt safe. One evening, her father, Mr. Ashford, returned from a long trip. He walked into the garden and found his daughter, the terror of the house, sitting on a bench with Elena, helping her plant roses. Her hands were muddy. She was laughing, a sound he hadn't heard since her mother passed away. He stood there, astonished. The cold, embittered shell of his daughter was gone, replaced by a warm, generous soul. "Who is this?" Mr. Ashford asked, his voice gruff but curious. Isabella looked at Elena, her eyes shining with gratitude. "This is Elena, father. She saved my life." Mr. Ashford looked at Elena. He saw a woman of humble means, dressed in a simple uniform, her hands stained with soil. He saw the light in his daughter's eyes. He reached out his hand. "Thank you," he said simply. It was a phrase he rarely used, but he meant it with all his heart. Elena took his hand, her grip firm and warm. "It was my pleasure, sir. Your daughter just needed someone to remind her who she truly is." Isabella and Elena remained friends for years to come. Elena, the woman who feared nothing, had taught the billionaire's daughter that the only way to find true power is to surrender to love and kindness. So here is the lesson. And this is the part of the story that I want you to remember. You see, Isabella thought she was powerful. She thought her power lay in the money she had, the things she owned, and the fear she could instill in others. But that wasn't power. That was just armor. Heavy, cold, isolating armor. Her heart was a fortress, and she was the only prisoner inside. And what did Elena have? She had nothing. A poor woman, a widow, from a faraway land. She was armed with nothing but the deepest, most unshakable faith in humanity. And that made her invincible. She had walked through the fire of life and came out the other side not hardened, but softened. She taught us a profound truth. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. It is the strength to be kind when the world tells you to be cruel, to be generous when you have little, and to love when it is the most difficult thing to do. When you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or like the world is against you, ask yourself, am I building a fortress of anger or a home of love? Are you protecting your heart, or are you sharing it? The most powerful people on this earth are not the ones who demand respect, but the ones who effortlessly command it through their grace and compassion. Remember, anyone can be cruel. It takes a truly powerful soul to be kind. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than you feel. And sometimes, the only person you need to conquer is the one staring back at you in the mirror. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading your stories and hearing your perspectives. Be sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message today, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful story. And as always, go out there and be the gentle strength this world needs. See you in the next story.